My guess is that even though you spend about a third of your life sleeping, you know nothing about sleep, what it does for you when you've had enough, and what it does to you when you haven't. What you do know, however, is the overbearing burden of sleepiness. I know you felt it too. When you've underslept or been awake for too long and your head feels slightly foggy, heavier than usual, like there's pressure building in there telling you to sleep. Well, that pressure is called adenosine, and it begins building up in your brain the moment you wake and is only cleared out during sleep. This is what makes you sleepy. I mean, sure, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, there's many things that can disrupt your sleep, but what I'm talking about is sleep inertia and melatonin. These, along with adenosine, all play a role in the biological mechanisms that literally make you feel tired. And I'm about to tell you all about them so you can fix it. And to do that, we need to talk about the sleep cycle. The moment you fall asleep, your brain begins a 90-minute sleep cycle that repeats over and over until you wake. This sleep cycle can be broken into 4 stages, 3 of non-REM sleep and 1 of REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement and is what happens during the 4th stage of sleep, which I'll go into later. As your eyes get heavy and you begin dozing off, you enter stage 1 of non-REM sleep, the lightest stage of sleep, which usually lasts about 1 to 5 minutes. Stage 2, still referred to as light sleep, is when your body temperature and heart rate begin to fall, your muscles relax, and your brain activity slows down. This prepares you to fall deeper into sleep and usually lasts for 10 to 25 minutes. Stage 3 is where things get interesting. Also referred to as deep sleep, it generally lasts for 20 to 40 minutes, is the deepest stage of sleep and the hardest to wake up from. It's the stage where your body is the most relaxed and is thought to be essential for recovery and growth.
Mr. Belford.
Which is why getting too little of it leaves you feeling mentally and physically tired when you wake. In fact, if you are woken during deep sleep, you'll experience mental fogginess that often feels like you've underslept, even when you haven't. We call this sleep inertia. And that brings us to the final stage of sleep, stage 4, also known as REM sleep, which is when your eyes begin moving rapidly behind closed eyelids as you start having the most vivid dreams. It usually occurs 90 minutes after you fall asleep and lasts for 10 minutes to an hour, increasing with each sleep cycle as the night goes on. These are the 4 stages of the sleep cycle, and they repeat over and over, varying in stage and duration until you wake. But why am I telling you this? As I mentioned before, waking during deep sleep can cause sleep inertia, that disoriented feeling you sometimes get after you wake. This is because your brain believes it's about to start a new cycle of sleep, and when you're woken abruptly from it, you feel slightly confused, mentally slow, and possibly grumpy. Luckily, there's a way to get around this, by making sure you wake during light sleep. This is why naps of 30 or 90 minutes and nothing in between are regarded as optimal. 30 minutes because it's right before deep sleep begins, or 90 minutes so you wake after completing the first sleep cycle. But what about waking up in the morning? If you're asleep, how could you possibly know when your body's in light sleep, let alone wake yourself up?
Wake up, you piece of shit!
To answer that, I need to tell you about circadian rhythms. Have you ever wondered how your body seems to know what time it is? When to wake, when to eat, when to sleep? Somehow, your body knows there's 24 hours in a day and what to do every hour of that day, like it knows your schedule. Well, that's because of your circadian rhythms. 24-hour cycles linked to your body's internal clock, which help regulate physical and mental changes. Let's take one of the most prominent circadian rhythms, for example, the sleep-wake cycle. If you wake and sleep at the same times every day, then your body adapts to these times by adjusting your circadian rhythm. It does this by releasing chemicals and carrying out processes that signal your brain to feel awake or sleepy at the right times every day. It's by keeping your circadian rhythm aligned with your sleep schedule that you'll naturally wake from light sleep. And we do this with the help of 2 hormones, melatonin and cortisol. Melatonin is responsible for turning on areas of the brain that promote sleep while simultaneously turning off areas that promote waking. It's controlled by light exposure through your eyes, where darkness causes the release of melatonin, making you feel sleepy, whilst light does the opposite, allowing you to wake. Cortisol, on the other hand, is responsible for promoting wakefulness and movement, along with other things we don't need to get into. When your body temperature increases or sunlight hits your eyes, cortisol is released in response, pushing you to wake. This is how your brain coordinates your circadian rhythm, by taking cues from light exposure and temperature and signaling the release or suppression of melatonin and cortisol. Knowing this, you can start building a sleep-wake protocol using these tools to align your circadian rhythm with your sleep schedule. But before that, there is just one last thing that I need to talk about. Adenosine. Commonly referred to as sleep pressure, adenosine is a byproduct of energy expenditure that limits brain activity, causing drowsiness and urging you towards sleep. And the only way to get rid of it is by sleeping. Basically, the more active you are, the more energy is used and the more adenosine is produced. This is a big reason why you feel so tired after using large amounts of energy, whether physical or mental. All that energy creates adenosine, which pressures you towards sleep. What makes coffee so effective is that the caffeine blocks your adenosine receptors, and of course, the sleepiness that comes with it. Unfortunately, as it doesn't actually clear out adenosine, when the caffeine wears off, all that sleep pressure comes flooding right back in and causes the all too familiar afternoon crash. Go to sleep, however, and adenosine gets metabolized, eventually allowing you to wake. Okay, now that you know why you feel sleepy, I can give you some tools so you can fix it. Timing. The human brain is a pattern recognition machine, and anywhere it can, the mind will adapt for efficiency. That's why sleeping and waking at the same times every day allows your brain to recognize a pattern so it can synchronize your circadian rhythm to your sleep schedule. I prefer to use Earth's natural clock, sunlight. Allowing sunlight into your room is a great way to wake up naturally at approximately the same time every day, instead of waking to the jarring sound of an alarm clock. Your body's exposure to sunlight will cause the suppression of melatonin while simultaneously triggering the release of cortisol, not just allowing, but actually pushing you to wake naturally. If, however, you don't want to wake with the sun, then you can use anytime light bright enough to fill your room if that option's available to you. Either way, within the first hour of getting out of bed, you should aim to get 5 to 10 minutes of sunlight into your eyes. This not only gets rid of any remaining adenosine, but it will also trigger further cortisol release to wake you up and set in motion a timer for you to fall asleep later that night. It's important to note that artificial light isn't bright enough to trigger these events. It must be sunlight specifically, and it has to hit your eyes. I don't mean stare directly at the sun though. Just make sure you're looking towards it as much as possible so that it doesn't hurt. And don't forget to blink, because it's going to be bright. Darkness. This one's pretty straightforward. Try to keep any light in your environment as dim as possible as nighttime approaches. This includes electronic devices like your smartphone, computer, and TV. In doing so, melatonin production ramps up, making you sleepy and preparing you for bed. Temperature. Decreasing your body temperature will lower cortisol levels, raise melatonin production, and prime you to sleep. Increasing your body temperature, on the other hand, will trigger the release of cortisol and urge you to wake. I think the best and most affordable tool for most people will be a hot or cold shower.
Here it comes. God damn!
Where it can get a little confusing is that a cold shower actually increases your internal body temperature, whilst a hot shower does the exact opposite. Exercise. Although you should be trying to get a good workout in every day, I'm specifically talking about brief movement in the morning to help speed up wakefulness. Skipping, walking, jogging, whatever. It doesn't need to be a full workout. Just get your 5 to 10 minutes of exercise in early in the morning. This will not only increase body temperature and help you wake up, but also improve your mood, your focus, and overall energy levels. Good luck with solving sleepiness. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this with anyone that needs it.